It's raining outside. I have the overhead door open. It's raining. But we're going to wind up about a dozen of these springs here. And I'll show you something. Kind of be educational to you, I think. And Greg, this spring winding, it's quite fascinating. And you know, my way of thinking, if you're going to need about 3 of anything, you know, build a jig, buy a machine or something. And I was lucky enough to get 2 spring winding machines at a recent Amish auction sale down the road there a ways. And when I got the machine, this was missing. That wasn't there. Be very careful with that spring wire. But when I got the machine, this handle was missing, and this outrigger mechanism. I've started to put a winding wheel, a rotating wheel, so the spring wire can self-feed. But after taking it apart, cleaning it up, and kind of giving it a study, a once over, figuring out how the thing works, it's quite simple, but yet quite productive. So what I did, the way, you know, you can get the big book out over. I have one. I've only had that out there 1 or 2 times, but I think, you know, if memory, well, that was WMU Engineering Technology Department, F. Sitkins. That's who owned that book. But I've had it a long time. But I think over here, oh, it's over towards the back, I think. I'm not going to go any further with it. I'm just going to show you how to get it done. But it's in there if you have to have it. So, going from that, the control, the springs that I need to produce now, is these springs right here. They go in the, it's old-time PVC valve on a Type M, 1.5, 3, and 6 horsepower even. And this is the springs that come out of the original engine. So this one is a recent purchase from a vendor, parts vendor, this spring here. So I mic'd the calipered, put that digital caliper on there, got on 0 and everything. And I come down there and I got 1 coil. Yeah, it's 28,000. Okay. Where was that spring at? Well, that's the control. Don't get them mixed up. This is the one that was purchased on the internet, came by mail. So this is the spring. Well, let's back up here. Once I got the wire size, I went on ahead and ordered in a 1-pound spool of wire right there. So I counted the coils down through there, and there's 6 of them, 6 coils. So these are original. Let's move these out of the way. they can be used and will be used. They're in good condition. But the way I come about getting the correct size arbor, and the arbor is this thing right here. I'll show it to you. Well, let's take it apart. This right here is an arbor. So, and this right here is what size spring you're going to wind. And it being this one right here, this is it, is the correct size and the correct length and the correct wire diameter. That one. The way I came about that is at first when I was putting it together, I had this large, I think that's 7/16. And when I wound the first spring on it, it was this size right here, quite large. So this size mandrel with this much, with the nut set 3 threads inboard there, and that's 2 brass washers for tension. Okay, with this size wire and this size arbor produces this size spring. That's how much. So, this being the arbor we're going to use, the way the machine works is it has a stop in there with the thing like that right there, and you can loosen that up and move that over, and when you do, you pull this out like this right here, and that indicates how wide apart the spring coils are. And I changed that, and what did I made this one, and I think, boy, that's way too big, so I got me a real small one, and it was way too small, and then I got a larger, and that's the spring, upwards until I could mic those and then get a number to work with, which was this one. So everything's cleaned up. That's the cutoff, and this is the tension, and this is the outrigger for the wire, and this is the pivot handle, and this is the arbor support. And the way that works is this thing moves in and out, and you put whatever size mandrel arbor in there whatever size spring you're going to wind, and then you take up this tension right here to where it's snug, and then you back it off to where that's free on an oil shaft. I have found works really good, and then you adjust this upward there to where that. Well, it needs a little oil on it. Most of this machinery, you can't get too much oil on it. Oh, yeah. See, that's much better right there, with a little oil on it. Man. Yeah, it's good and tight. Get it loose. So what happened is when I got the machine, that was missing, and this mechanism was missing. So I goes on the internet and watched a video of the person winding a spring. And it was real fast, and it was out of frame, and I had to imagine what this looked like. So I'll show it to you. Let's take it apart and draw on a piece of metal. I'll get a pencil. So what I did, to explain my thinking on the subject was, after watching the video on the YouTube, and I had another piece of metal that had a hole in it somewhere. I've done discarded it. But imagining, just looking at this thing and figuring out how to make it, my thinking was that probably on this machine here, that's the biggest arbor I'll use. So this is some 1-inch aluminum key stock 6061. So, you know, without getting any measuring apparatuses out, you know, just to get the job done, I figured I'd just come about halfway right here, and I'd drill a hole 1/2 inch right there, and a hole 1/2 inch right there. And then I would drill in the top right here for a 1/4 bolt using a number 7 drill bit and a 1/4 thread for this intersecting bolt to capture the mandrel. Mandrel will go in that one. You can use multi sizes in there, up to the largest of the hole. And then the purpose of this one down here, imagining that you have to be able to capture that wire somehow with a cam action. And it's you know, just looking at one in action is really, you really have to do some imagining. But here's the cam that I actually made, and you can see it's just an offset turning, and that's about 1/2 inch. I didn't measure it, and that's about 1/2 inch right there, and it was turned to fit the 1/2 inch hole I drilled in that. I just made this as a good sliding fit, and then I made it where it's a little long where you can get a handle on it and all. Imagining that it has to be about halfway inside this block here. So at some point you have to mill this away. This part will be gone. Oh no, that's the wrong end. Scrub it out. Oh man. Go down this way. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is go over and mill that away. And imagining that in order for that to capture that wire on that ledge, imagining that you're going to make something to capture that wire on that ledge, then looking at it from this side over here, this outside piece would have to be at the point, you know, it can be offset like this. You know what I mean? So that when you turn this, it goes over that way. Okay, so I milled that away, and I made this. Now I got them two parts fitted like that. There would be a hole back here and a hole over here. Now we got a life-size blueprint. Okay, if you put that on here, then you imagine that you turning this thing right here. Okay, right down here, that wire's got to give way. So what I did is I milled that away right there. From there, all the way, almost. Oh, that's a complicated angle right there. Now study about this if you want to. And just barely missed that hole in the front like that right there. And took that corner away. Now, when that wire comes over there like that right there, it'll shed off and come around and be on the thing down there. So, you know, simple as that is, that's what it did. You know, a 3-dimension That's one of them three-dimension blueprints right there. I think that's not a CAD. That's a aluminum somehow in the word. So, and I did that over on that grizzly machine over there. The lathe and the mill both was involved in it. And this is what this ended up being. Like that, that. And then I rounded off the corners there, you know. You kind of obligated to round the corners off. And then this right here is a real good, very good sliding fit in that hole right there. And you see that cam action? It's raining outside. So, when your little piece of wire comes over, that catches it. And then this bolt here, and the top up here in that thread, this right here catches on to this. Gotta watch this. Very good. Okay, that's tight, even up, and it's all set and still have clearance, so that's good to go. Now, the handle, as I said before in an earlier video, this was in the junk box over there. I'm not sure what it come off of. I don't even have a clue. But it's the same color, almost, same patina. I'm happy with it. So, and my thinking is, yeah, we're gonna wind this spring. Go ahead and wait till the end there, and y'all we'll wind this spring up. But I was thinking that this right here is gonna come around like that and catch that wire. So there's a little bit of wire right there, and I was thinking if I put that handle on there about right there, you know what I mean? It might line up about right. Let's see. We might want to adjust it. But okay, see what I'm going for is to be in line when I capture that wire, and I think that'll be about right. And I think that'll make counting how many turns it is more better. So I'm going to cinch up. Well, yeah. See, there's plenty of play there. There's no binding or anything. So yeah, that'd be good to go. And that goes all the way in that way, and you have to have clearance so that when the handle comes around it won't hit the bench. And the way I made that thing right there and everything, this is the way it ended up. This distance here is about 30 thousandths less than the outside diameter of this 1 inch, so it's not sticking out to cause any harm or anything down there. So that comes around like that, and that catches your wire. And as your wire comes around, it falls off of that thing there. So let's wind a couple of springs now. I need a dozen of them. Also, there is some extra safety to be taken in consideration when you wind the springs, because this wire is quite springy. But you come over, you put your wire in right there, you turn this forward and capture that. We've got tension on this. We've got enough excess wire there to do the job, and I'm going for 6 coils of spring at this setting, and it should be identical to the last spring I turned. Okay, when you get to the end of it right there, you want to let it unwind, you know, past its springiness. And then you remove the arbor, let off the tension, bring this back, and cut the spring off. Oh yeah. Now let's make about 10 more then. And I'm gonna clip the ends of them off right there. Let's trim it to size. One, two, three, four, five. One, two, three, four, five, 6 coils. Let's trim it to size. Oh yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coils. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and turn that in for grade.